How's it going, guys, and welcome to another entry in our Community Cast series. In this match, we're going to have a live showdown between the Gobbo King, who's going to be playing the Vampire Counts led by the mighty GHORST, and he's going to be facing off against Shetland Apache, who's going to be playing the Dwarfs led by Runelord. So guys, let's jump right into this match and take a look at some of these builds. So for the Gobbo King, it looks like he does have the mighty Black Coach, and honestly the Black Coach isn't bad against the Dwarves. It's kind of like a Chariot, although it does need to stay in sustained combat a little bit more than a Chariot. But still, despite the fact that the Dwarves will get that kind of a magic mitigation against it, because it does do magic damage, it still has pretty good stats against the Dawi. It does have 90 armor piercing damage, plus a bonus for his infantry of 20. On top of that, it looks like the Gobbo King does have a couple of groups of Black Knights. I think he has one group here, and there should be one on the far side as well, so going very, very wide. But again, the Dwarves are probably going to pick part of the map and just kind of, catty corner themselves against the edge of the map. It makes it a lot better for them because, again, you don't have to worry about as much cav pressure from both flanks. But aside from that, Gobbo King does have a Vargulf, a pretty good not anti-large, but a pretty good, massive armor-piercing option that, can get into the back line. It has a stopping power. It needs to deal with, Runelords and Runesmiths and Thanes and things like that. However, it is a very, very big target. On top of that, Gobbo does have some more armor-piercing and a couple of groups of Graveguard with great weapons. I think he has 2 in total, and then the Sternsmen in the middle. So even though the Sternsmen don't have the best armor-piercing values, they're still worth bringing. I mean, their stats are just so good. 51 melee defense, 38 weapon strength with bonus for his infantry, and they regenerate. So you don't really have to worry about healing them with Invocation of Nehek. On top of that, he's got some Cryptors. He does have Helm and GHORST in the back. And as much of a meme as GHORST is, this is probably one of the few matchups in which I think he's not bad. Although you do need to really be careful because these gyrocopters over here and the cannon from the Dwarves can do some massive work against him because he's so darn slow with that 23 movement speed. So for Shetland Apache, he does have a couple of groups of gyrocopters with the brimstone guns. Definitely a pretty good choice there. For his main infantry corps, he does have dwarf warriors here, the warriors of Dragonfire Pass, and an additional group of dwarf warriors. A couple groups of miners with blasting charges, which I like quite a bit. Very good at dealing with fodder units and clearing up zombies. And yeah, the blasting charge is honestly pretty good against vampires in my opinion. His cannon in the back, it looks like it's going to be shooting over here at the Vargulf. I think it looks like it is going to be turning a little bit, but the Fellbats from the Gobbo King applying some pretty good pressure to those gyros. Over here in the flank, he does have some the Peak Gate Guard actually over here in the forest, which is pretty cool to see these guys in action. Hammers did get some pretty good buffs. They don't have charged defense, but they hit like absolute trucks with a 54 melee attack, armor sundering, magic damage, which can be pertinent against the vampires. And it looks like the Dragonback Slayers, led by a Thane with the Tormentor Sword, are going to be pushing out and going after these Black Knights and other kind of mobile units from the vampire counts. Aside from that, let's go ahead and look. So it looks like the Gobbo King does also have a Necromancer on the far side with Invocation of Nehek and Raise Dead. And whenever you bring the GHORST man, he can only summon, the Graveguard. So it's better to have, you really want that zombie summon still just for the frequency of summons. So I definitely like bringing a Necromancer as well. And the Fellbats are going to be pretty useful at chasing down the gyrocopters. At the very least, it's going to keep them from kind of, shooting. And honestly, Fellbats are really hard for gyrocopters to kill because there's so many of them, number one, and they actually have 44 melee defense. So they can be pretty durable. And you can see they're kind of winning this battle against the gyrocopter. Over on the far side, this one gyrocopter, the Brimstone Gun, is getting some really good value against these Black Knights over here, which is pretty tough. They're down to 27 models. But again, whenever you're advancing on the Dwarves, you're always going to take some casualties, so there's going to be some, inevitable, losses there. So these Black Knights down to 24 models. The Vargulf's in pretty good shape. The Black Coach has taken some damage, but it's nothing GHORST can't fix with an Invocation of Nehek. And I think he does have Invocation. Yes, he has that, and he has the raising of the Graveguard as well. But those gyros doing some huge damage against the Black Coach. So hopefully Gobbo can pull the Black Coach up and around this way, because all of his guns are focused in the forest. The cannon is aiming this way as well. So if the Black Coach could come and engage on miners, that would be pretty ideal. You can see in the back, the Gobbo King was able to get his Varix Reavers, and also it looks like a zombie summon right on top of that cannon. So very, very well played there. The gyrocopters are continuing to just get wrecked by these Fellbats. So definitely some very good play from the Gobbo King. Shetland Apache is going to be landing the gyros here, which isn't bad because it's going to potentially force the Fellbats onto the ground where the Dwarf Warriors could potentially help them. But it looks like the Black Knights are going to be coming in, the Varix Reavers, getting a nice little charge on these guys, doing some pretty good damage. There are some Grumbling Guard and, miners with blasting charges over here to kind of support. So I definitely wouldn't want to keep those Varix Reavers in there for too long, but still damage on those gyrocopters is probably worth it to an extent. So on the main fight, it looks like the zombies are advancing. You can see this Vargulf over here is going to be jumping into these Dwarf Warriors, and he will obviously be able to take these guys out over a period of time, but he doesn't want to be standing here. He should be, pushing back into these Thunders probably. But the issue is the Peak Gate Guard are back there, and even though they're not like an anti-large unit, they're still going to be very strong. So some of these zombies are going to be coming in. You can see the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin going down from Shetland Apache and his Runelord right here, which is going to get rid of them pretty quick. In the back, there's a bunch of zombies kind of mucking things up, and you can see the Necromancer atop his steed is going to be scurrying away from the Grumbling Guard. In the meantime, the Varix Reavers are waiting over here in the flank, and there's going to be some Cryptors, and also the mighty Black Coach. I know this is everyone's favorite. And you can see the Fellbats in the distance chasing the gyros, and the Black Coach is going to get in there and get down and dirty on those guys. So very, very well played, keeping that thing alive and getting it in here. And it looks like it did receive an Invocation of Nehek. So the mighty Helm and GHORST. This is going to spell doom for the Dwarves, potentially. Helm and GHORST has finally arrived to the battle. The Cryptor is getting a really good flank here and can probably do some pretty good damage here to this Runelord and some of these miners who are obviously a somewhat low tier unit. But these Felbats still kind of chasing down these two groups of gyrocopters. So, I mean, this is literally like 1,600 gold worth of resources that is like struggling to deal with these Felbats. So definitely some good use of those guys. But it looks like Shetland Apache is doing a really amazing job. Very well played, focusing down this Vargulf with all of his resources and, scooting and shooting with those gyrocopters. So I definitely like his, play quite a bit with that. But this thing is pretty low. It's crumbling. I mean, its leadership is 5 right now. It looks like there is going to be an invocation of Mehek going down. And the Thunders are taking a bit of a beating. It looks like the other Necromancer from the Gabo King is able to kind of scurry around the Dwarven defenses and get some zombie summons on the Thunders, which is going to, make this guy exponentially more effective. And it looks like the Vargulf is actually netting HP and going up right now, so definitely some good stuff. So on the front line, Helman Gorst is just going to be lurking in the background, supporting his zombies and other troops against the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. And let's actually see if he has the Reliquary Corruption. So he should have that. Looks like he does. So he has that Mortis Engine effect. It's just hitting the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, so if Gabo King could scoot him over here, I think that'd be a little bit better because it would start hitting those Peak Gate Guard. And it looks like a big cap charge coming in from the Barracks Reavers, going to be hitting these Dwarf Warriors and these other troops. And a lot of zombies and kind of graveyard with great weapons in the back line. So the Dwarf line is pretty wild right now, but it looks like Shetland Apache has been able to form a bit of a battle line here using his Rune Lord to really anchor these Peak Gate Guard. And they're going to be laying an absolute hammering on these guys. So if you go into the actual pocket and look, you can see the Peak Gate Guard with their armor sundering and just heavy weapon strength. They're going to be decking these Black Knights. You can see they're crumbling and going down pretty quick. And also his Thunder firing line is getting some good supporting fire up on those bats. And as soon as he's able to get rid of those bats, those gyrocopters are really going to start to wreak some havoc. But that one gyrocopter is actually down to 2 models. So those bats are just trolling them, just flying, just those 2. That's like 650 getting rid of 2,400 gold there, which is incredible. So very, very good stuff right there. But on the ground, it's definitely a pretty close fight. The balance power is very even at this point. The Necromancer continuing to ride around and troll and cackle, and he's probably going to get another zombie summon right on top of these Thunders, I would imagine. That would probably be the best bet, just shutting those guys down. And you can see he does indeed get the summon there. So a lot of wild action going on, and the mighty Helman Gorst is leading his people to victory. He's going to be applying that Mortis Engine effect to the Graveguard here, or the Peak Gate Guard, excuse me. And you can see their HP is going down somewhat quick, and even though they are laying a hammering on the Sternsman, he's kind of just holding them in place. And you can see the big Vargulf is actually at half health. Still does have some distance before his healing cap. This one group of gyrocopters from Shetland Apache is online, but it flies a little bit too close. It looks like it's actually going to be diving the Gorst, but the Gorst has got his whip, he's got his zombies, he's ready to party at all times. Is he actually going to whip it? Does he have a whip, or is that... I could have sworn he had one, but it looks like he has a bit of a pimp cane, but I don't know if he has a whip, but he's actually just straight up ramrodding this thing, just pushing. He's like, get out of here, just taking it out. You can see in the back the Black Knights, the Barracks Reavers are able to get a good charge into the back of the Thunders. And it looks like the balance of power is going to be heavily in the favor of the Gabo King. The Dwarfs are starting to look very heavily surrounded and kind of beleaguered. You can see these Peak Gate Guard are getting borne down by the Vargulf and the great weapons here. The Rune Lord is surrounded by Cryptors and is getting flanked, and Helman Gorst is just riding around and cackling on his cart. Just, he's the guy that nobody ever expects. The Gorst comes in and he just, if he gets there, he's going to be a menace, that's for sure. In the back, you can see the Graveguard with great weapons are going to be chasing down these Thunders, and the Thunders aren't going to be able to, really get away from those guys. And I don't think the Dwarves have the stopping power to get back into this game. I think it's definitely going to be a win for the Vampires. Granted, I've seen stranger things happen, but the bounce power is so heavily in the favor. In the bats, really, I think this was one of the biggest variables for the success of the Gabo King. Shetland had a lot of his resources invested in those gyrocopters. And those things were kind of his answer to Helman Gorst, to the Vargulf, to the Black Coach, pretty much to all of the big pertinent threats, like the Cav and everything else. Like his resources otherwise were, somewhat narrow. I mean, that's a big investment, and they didn't pay off. The Felbats were able to really fend those guys off, and I think that was going to be one of the big determining factors in this match. So those Felbats just chasing those gyrocopters off the battlefield. Also, some good cycle charging over here is going to send some of these Dwarves flying from these Varix Reavers, who do have 42 kills, which isn't bad against the Dwarves. The Thunders here actually have 105, but I think a lot of those are from beating up zombies that were already degenerating. So Helman Gorst is just going to be sitting here cackling as these forces do get degenerated, and you can see that this Rune Lord and Gorst, the battle of battles, just the two wet noodles whacking each other. How does he even attack? Okay, it looks like Gorst is he doesn't even care. He's just so chill up on that cart. Looks like a Necromancer and the Cryptors are going to be coming in to protect their liege and fend off this mighty Rune Lord as he does try and waddle forth and take out the Gorst man. But the Gorst is just too much to handle, guys. He's a force of nature. He's going to be popping that magic animus and doing his thing, giving some good leadership to his nearby troops. And it looks like the Peak Gate Guard and the remaining Slayers are pretty much going to just be cleaned up here. There is a group of Grumbling Guard here, 73 models, but there's so many Vampire Counts troops left, heroic units, and Helman Gorst could probably take those guys on his own. And it looks like the Rune Lord here is going to meet his fate at the end of Helman Gorst. Does he have a whip? This needs to be... No, he actually has a sword. Is it just the... Oh, I think it's just the corpse cart that has the whip. I think he legit just has a sword, but... Anyways, the Rune Lord is going to get chased off the battlefield. You can see he's shattered due to army losses. And now there's basically just a few Slayers fighting. I think there's only a couple left, and they're probably going to get cleaned up here in just a moment. So very well played to the Gobbo King, who was playing the Vampire Counts as a bit of a recap, and also to Shetland Apache, who was playing the Dwarves. Definitely a very close competitive game. I think some really good micro with the Fellbats and also cycle charging in the back, and really effective use of that Necromancer on the horse to run around and shut down those anti-large and kind of anti-threat options was very, very good from the Gobbo King. So let's go ahead and take a look. So for the armies, I like Shetland, I liked his army quite a bit. Had those gyrocopters been able to function, they could have shot down the Black Coach easily. They could have probably killed the Vargulf, the Cav. They could have just focused Helm and Gorst and done a ton of damage because he's basically a sitting duck. But the Fellbat play was huge from the Gobbo King. I think that was really solid. I mean, but also his Cav micro was very good. He was also able to get good play with that Necromancer, so there was a lot of things going for him for sure. For Shetland's army, I did like it. Like I said, he played very well given the circumstances. He did, was microing those gyrocopters very aggressively. But it's like if there's a bat for each gyrocopter, it's going to be really tough to kind of micro that separately and also get value out of them. I think he did have a couple good bombs, but still, it was too much pressure. And then from there, he didn't really have that aerial overwatch that he really needed to win. But very well played to both players regardless. So guys, make sure to go check out the Gobbo King on his YouTube channel. You guys have probably all seen him on our best of fives and other shenanigans that we do together. We will be planning to play some, or probably put up some Blood Bowl 2 action. We both have pretty high-level teams at this point. I'm playing the Dwarfs and he's playing the Goblins, of course. So we'll make sure to put some of those up, pretty soon here. And also, guys, Shetland Apache is the gentleman who puts on all of those big tournaments. So if you guys have seen like the Prince's Pittance tournament and the ones that are always streamed on Twitch and other platforms, and I've casted them occasionally after the fact, he runs all these tournaments. He's like the admin. He organizes everything. Definitely does an amazing job. So in the comment section below, there will also be a link to his upcoming tournaments. So guys, thanks again for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this live community cast. And guys, we got a lot more content coming soon.